we're going to do a little Q&A session with Sundance DiGiovanni, our CEO and co-founder of MLG. We have Adam Apicella in the middle. He's our SVP of Operations. Sorry, EVP now, right? And then we have Lee Chen on the far side, who's our SVP of Esports Strategy. So I'm going to go ahead and just open the floor to questions. And who wants to start off? Anyone? Have a question? All right, in the center, PC Bang.
Just wondering if you could kind of yeah, I was just wondering if you can kind of give me your take on how StarCraft 2 esports and whatnot is actually a version of esports in terms of the post-sports and how it kind of prepares
We've been doing this for 10 years, and we've always strived to take platform of video games and present them in a manner very similar to traditional sport, right? So something you might see on ESPN, commentators, the way we present the action, and even the way we've cut down the highlights, right? And so what we've seen with StarCraft in the last couple of years for us, as we've adopted it, is a tremendous global interest, right? So to me, I kind of look at it as it's similar to European football, right? It's something that is played all around the world, slightly different levels of skill, but there's these unifying moments where players all come together, right? There are things like the World Cup, there are things like individual leagues within those regions. And so what we've seen with StarCraft is the ability to take this model that we really developed around Halo in the very beginning, and apply it to something with a global fan base. I'm excited actually to take that even further and really start to focus in on delivering some quality around North America. Right? I believe that one of the things we need to do, similar to what you see with any traditional sport, is regionalize a little bit. Right? These events are fantastic, and we have people coming in from all over the world. And our arena model that we rolled out this year has been really successful. And now what I want to try and do is I want to focus on our ability to do something similar to what maybe you'll see in South Korea, but here in North America. So it's been fantastic for us. There's been some challenges to it. Obviously, we can scale anything in this world because there's different sections of the audience, the fan base, the player base have different expectations. So we'll continue to do these big events like this, but I think what we're going to try and do is take the next step to what you've seen in traditional sport, right, which is localization to an extent. So StarCraft's been fantastic, and it's really been the driving force in a lot of our growth over the last few years. The community's been amazing, the players are amazing, and it's provided a lot of lift and a lot of really useful information for us as we continue to scale the overall business.
Next question. Christian?
Hello, Christian from Five-Man Booth for League of Legends. That's new, right? Can you tell us a little about it? The League of Legends Five-Man Booths. Can you tell us a little more about it? Like, is it soundproof? What's the reason why you choose to have one? And so on.
There really isn't any, you can't say anything is soundproof. The material we use to construct all our boots is sound dampening material. And then we also have white noise pumped in. In Anaheim, the event, the booths were constructed in the weeks prior to the event, so they weren't completely finished. You'll see at this event, we actually have the caps, which you'll see right here where the iLive Power lighting is at. Those weren't in Anaheim, so they weren't as sound dampening as they could be. So it'll be a lot more functional for this event. We also use noise canceling headsets in conjunction with the booth, which we also do not have in Anaheim. So yeah, I mean the booths they're sound dampening, but they're definitely nothing soundproof. So does that answer your question?
Yeah. They'll be better.
Next question. Right here, center.
Thank you guys. I am Bart from Holland. Thank you. I want to ask you about MLG and if it's growing or if the economic downfall has any disadvantages.
So we started the business in 2002, so we've actually been through, there was a kind of the financial collapse has happened in stages in terms of, you know, the stock market crash and now the European concerns. But for us, one of the things that's been amazing is we've been consistent in our revenue through that time. And one of the things that we've actually started to do a lot more of is actually control the cost side of things, because we see the revenue potential expanding and growing, right, with each event, with a lot of partnerships we have, obviously the CDSI relationship that we have. So for us, without really adding any new costs to the business, we're in a position where we're likely to double our revenue next year. So, you know, again, that's an optimistic point of view of the world. We could very easily stay flat should market conditions change dramatically, but as I mentioned a little bit earlier in the answer I gave, in terms of focusing on North America, that's one of our hedges to kind of avoid that situation where we will still continue to operate on a global scale, but we'll do a lot more in North America to assure ourselves that opportunity for growth.
Another question?
I'm Spencer from Laguna. I was wondering how your cooperation will be with Tesla after these recent events with OSL.
Yeah, so the Tesla question finally happened. So, you know, we're working with them still closely trying to figure out exactly how we want to roll things out. You know, there's a lot going on, obviously, you know, currently in the scene in South Korea with them and GSL. But it's, you know, we feel that one of the key parts of our relationship and the deal that we have in place with them is trying to help them update their way of thinking and how they're presented and received in the community. I mean, I think the community is very quick to kind of jump on things and assume the worst, and that there's ulterior motives. But there's a big organization behind, you know, what's happened at Tesla. It's not just, you know, I mean, at MLG we're pretty transparent, right? Like Adam's out there very visible and answering questions. I try and answer questions. Lee's part of the community. But Tesla's got a lot of independent moving parts that need to be aligned. So, and the history between GSL and Tesla is obviously goes back a ways, right? So I can't speak to what's happening between them. You know, we did have a relationship with GSL. It didn't go the way that we had hoped. We currently have a relationship with Tesla. It's still in the development phase because, to be honest, those guys are very protective of their players, of their brand, and you know, I didn't expect it really to take hold until the heart of the swarm update happened, to be honest with you. So things are actually accelerated even though they seem like they're slower. So, yeah, long story short is they're trying to operate the way that they think is best for them, best for the players, best for the teams. GSL is trying to operate, it's the same thing, it's best for them, themselves and their players, and the StarCraft 2 Federation players are trying to do what's best for them, but my goal is to work with them in a way that works in the bigger picture of things, but also as I've been saying, hinting at, to do more around what we have in Europe and North America, it's available to us. I think we need to, because there will always be some disconnect in terms of what we're going to want to do within the scene, what's going to happen over there.
Yeah, I mean, I think the only thing that I'll expand on that Sundance and Rod's probably going to follow up with something very shortly is that, you know, Tesla is really protective of its players, and they're very conscious of that. And the schedule that those guys are under right now is pretty taxing. And we do have some stuff that we're going to announce shortly around, you know, kind of interleague cooperation. So that sort of addition to their schedule definitely makes things tough. But I think the latest that I saw this morning was that Tesla's going to participate in the next season of GSL. So clearly things are kind of shaping up and leveling out over there. So, you know, time will tell.
Rod?
Hi, Rod Rozal, GameSpot. So as a follow-up to this, Tesla in their announcement today said two things. One, that there would be 2 days of what they call MLG Tesla cross matches, so I want to know what that is. And they also said that there will be Tesla players in Dallas. I want to know if you can confirm what they mentioned that there will be in Dallas.
So number two first, and I'll let Lee answer number one. Dallas will ideally have Tesla players there. We're going to have qualifiers per region. I will say for sure that the top 8 players from this event will be flown to Dallas in group play. We will have qualifiers for Tesla. We have qualifiers for the Esports Federation. We'll have qualifiers for Europe, and we'll have qualifiers for North America. So 4 regions will seed into Dallas, in addition to the 8 players from this event. You can answer that one.
So yeah, actually that's a pretty keynote to highlight on. It's the top 8 from this event. We'll get flown directly into the play Dallas. But as far as the interleague cooperation between KESPA and MLG, that format and the details around that will be announced pretty shortly. We're still tweaking out a couple of details and making sure the schedule is going to align with KESPA players and stuff that they've got going on. Clearly WCS Korea is still going on, so there's still a tremendous amount of activity that we're ironing out with them. But basically the idea behind that is to create a format in which KESPA pros have the opportunity to compete against North American and European pros in kind of a heads-up format, and then have that culminate into activity around the pro circuit and what we do on a local scale, Sundance was just talking about.
How come you choose Raleigh as your championship city? In the past, you've been a lot to Orlando. You had the finals there in 2009, I think. Why Raleigh over Orlando, for example?
So about, I guess 2 years ago, we did a broader deal with the city of Raleigh, an economic impact deal. We signed up for 3 years. So, you know, we had, I mean, other than the hurricane last year, which was a bit of a downer, we've had pretty good events here. We feel good about the support we get from the city. We're currently in the process of identifying the cities for next year's championship events. You know, and now that that deal is up with Raleigh, you know, we're not 100% committed to coming back here, but they're going to be running. But we do, I think there's a strong desire for us to get back to Orlando because we had tremendous events there in the past. It's a great destination for us, plus you get to go ride roller coasters, which is always nice.
I'm just wondering, Sundance, what do you think of the idea of there just being one league?
One league?
Yeah, kind of like the NBA, the NFL, the NHL. Is it heading that way? Do you think that that's what's needed to really make esports explode?
It's interesting. There's a lot of talk about that at the high level. There's lots of organizations. I think the first step, this is something we've been talking about with folks at DreamHack, folks at IEM, is figuring out a way that the collective activity is linked together to an extent. It's also part of our conversation with KESPA. I think that, for example, we did the Thor Zane one DreamHack came to our arena, right? And that's a nice starter, but imagine if you had kind of an ATP style ranking system in place and you could all align and decide, here are the major events that we're going to hold, here are the minor events that we're going to hold, and figure something out so there's some connective tissue between them. The concept of a single league governing body is, again, I think everybody who's in this business or the fan of this business says, well, it's an interesting idea. The question is that as you look at region by region and the economic implications of activating and just essentially organizing in those areas, there are different challenges. Right? North American market, for example, digital media advertising is at a far higher rate than you're finding in Asia, which is lower than what you're going to find in Europe. So again, for us, we've done the global. Let's do these. Think of it like golf, maybe, right, where you come in, qualify, you play, right? But these things are a little bit of connective tissue. Last year we had the golden rank points. There were issues around those. So we've attempted these different models, and I think we have something that works really well on the big scale with these events. And then there's another piece missing. It's almost not as, it's again that regionalization. So what I want to do is I want to focus on building something for North America. Right? I want to focus on exploring team leagues. I want to focus on finding out what the appetite is around that focus activity, right? Then you can have the competition about what that global piece looks like.
I think there's a lot of events, the calendar full of esports events. I mean, this month's crazy, and that's a good thing. But to Sundance's point, there needs to be some type of hierarchy. Not a hierarchy, but how do these tie in? We were saying win DreamHack, and then he places here in X spot. Like, how does that all interrelate? There's no why is this event important versus how is it compared to this event for the scope on a top level scale. So I think that's definitely something we're looking at trying to figure out.
Yeah, the other thing I think is also really important is I want it to be important, and I want it to matter if you're one of the top 16 players in North America, let's say, or the top 16 players in Europe, or even UK, Germany. I think that we need, we have this desire to see the best players in the world play. Right now, obviously, for the most part, we're seeing Korean players be far ahead most of the time. Right? And that's fine, and that's okay, that's understandable, but I think there's still some value, there's still some importance in terms of establishing those names, those stars, right? We had this conversation the other day about let's name your top 8 UK players. And I was asking somebody, and you get Bling, you're Muslim, okay, now who? And so I think there's an opportunity just to build up the scene a little bit from the lower level, kind of Toronto region by region. And that I want to see that happen before we try to establish something that's an overarching body. But the other thing that's great is we don't necessarily need to do that overarching body right away because we've got the ability to cooperate. And most of us get along pretty well now. So there's an opportunity for that. So I think people are no longer worried about the head-to-head competition so much. So there's an opportunity for organizations to work more closely together. So IEM, DreamHack, MLG, CASPA, possibly GSL again, just come to the table and say, okay, let's coordinate a little bit because there is enough to go around.
Yeah, and the other thing on that is I think 5-6 years ago when everybody was thinking about ideas like this about banding together, the esports scene in general was a lot smaller. The audiences were a lot smaller. The games weren't as popular. Gaming in general wasn't popular. That's changed dramatically, right? So the ability to regionalize and think about, hey, what are we going to do in North America that's going to make an impact here, right? Or maybe in the UK or in Latin America. Those are things that we can do today because the audience base is much stronger within one given region. Okay, so, and then, just being able to get along with other folks, it's also, even though there's a lot of noise and there's a tremendous number of events, like Campus Party just happened last weekend, that was a $25K first prize, right? Or some huge prize for it. No one heard about it, right? And that's, we've been talking about it here about Raleigh too, that there's just been kind of a lack of hype, and it's because there's so much noise and activity, right? But that said, there's also fewer major operators, right? So for us to be able to go and talk to IEM or the DreamHack, to the CASPA folks, that's a much easier conversation to have because you're having a one-on-one conversation between a few top-tier partners. And that, trickles down and lets everybody else, operate kind of mid-tier tournaments and mid-tier events that also create a lot of momentum and lift around just the competitive scene in general. So regionalizing for us is something that we're really strongly thinking about and trying to focus on in Q4 as well as going into next year.
I think though, just from the competitor's angle, from the player's angle, the skill gap disparity from region to region has to be addressed. And in sport, if you're winning, you're confident. If you're making money, you're confident. And right now, in order to make a living, you're either a weekend warrior or if you're not from Korea, so you're going to MLGs, you're going to DreamHack, you're going to IEM, you're playing these weekend tournaments. But if you want to play day to day, you pretty much have to go to Seoul. I mean, you have to play GSL, CASPA, whatever. That can't happen if you want the other regions to have a reason to aspire, a reason to be the top North American player, the top European player. There has to be activities in other parts of the globe other than Seoul where players in those regions can grow, aspire, and want to do this on a day-to-day basis and make a living and be confident that when they get matched up to someone from Korea, they can win. That they have the tools to win and the confidence. So definitely in the region, like regionalizing that the theme, it's also from the player's mindset as well. It's the disparity of skill right now.
Next question.
Do you guys plan to keep holding player lists and brackets until the start, or is that something that's going to...
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
The player lists and brackets are something that typically released a few hours before the start of the event. Do you guys plan to get that to us earlier, or what?
When you have a 200-person open bracket, and you have players like Gonzi that missed their flight, like today, it's like, that changes. So we release a bracket, and then it needs reseeded. So generally, for the main event, we don't release that till, group player pool play can be released, pretty far out. But in terms of the whole bracket, I mean, our thing's pretty intense. There's the registration chat right now, so stuff changes, and it's not right to release the bracket. It's going to be wrong at 5:30.
Another question?
Actually, from Africa. You talked about the skill level in North America, Europe, and Korea, and North America are by far the worst right now. I mean, there's no one that say otherwise. How do you think that if they continue to be the worst, and if they get even worse, how will that impact the North American team? Will it decline the interest? What do you think will happen?
Well, I think what we're working off of right now is that if you look at this time last year, the greatest player on the planet, right? Maybe Nesty, right? And now he's still great, but there's more challenges. Right? We've seen the Tesla players come into the scene over there and do pretty well in the WCS. The challenge for us in North America is that there's a glass ceiling you can bump into very, very quickly. And in Europe as well. And I agree with you that there's some stronger players out here at the moment, but not enough for it to really matter, to be honest. Thorazane winning DreamHack, best thing that could have happened. Huck winning one of our events, best thing that could have happened, because we can point to that and say, it's happened, but we're still terrible, so there's something to build on. To Adam's point of, when you're winning, you're getting more confidence, and more opportunities. So, what I think is that, if you take a look at the teams that are out here in North America, right, EG with the house, you've got complexity, you've got quantity. People are investing in the opportunity to have the right environment. But what's not there still is a place where they can go and have heads-up matches, a regularly based schedule, so that they're developing their skills, as opposed to having to hop on a plane, travel out of the country for most of the events, and take a shot in a grueling bracket scenario. So I think in order for us to get that gap in talent shored up a bit, number one, we need to build a framework where new players can come in, be identified, and have an opportunity to win on merit, right? To place on merit and get people have more access to competitive scene. Over time, hopefully that gap shrinks a bit. But really what it's going to take is dedication to teams and players above everything else, an infrastructure that supports that and gives them an opportunity to play regularly, and a reason, right? Again, if you're number 20 player in North America, what's your earning potential right now? It's not great. It's not great, right? So, if you can't support yourself doing this, or there's no hope of being in a position where you're going to be able to see the rewards as you would if you're, over in Seoul doing something, playing in that environment, you're going to lose people. And that's what we have to do, is we have to build a sustainable, stronger foundation for the players, the teams, and then that'll link in to a point where we'll get the players, probably advancing. You'll see the skill gap decrease a little bit, but the fact of the matter is that we're behind. North America and Europe are definitely behind in terms of the level of effort, commitment, and time that's put into it, and the infrastructure. So it'll take a while, but I think the first step is just establishing that base.
Important to clarify, though, what Sonny's trying to say is on that. At the top level, it's still competitive. From top players in Europe, top players in North America, they can take games off the top players in Korea. But in terms of amount of players that can win a tournament, there's 100 from Korea that are considered top flight. There's maybe 20 from Europe. There's maybe 8, 12 from North America. So at the top level, it's still, there's, there might be some disparities in skill there, but it's still, there's an upper niche of skill. But we need North America to have a couple hundred people that can win a game, or somebody that can aspire, and they're just on the cusp of going to a pro level play. So it's not that these regions are terrible; it's just there's just not enough players that can take games. So it's sort of outnumbered.
Yeah, I think the Blizzard WCS series is a great example of that, right? Like they're clearly utilizing that. But the great thing about that program is this program, sorry, it's in the room right here, is that it's focused around activating and raising levels of awareness for specific regional heroes, right? So, this weekend you're going to see the top 64 North American players battle it out from Mexico, Canada, and the United States. So that kind of depth is something that I think, from an infrastructure perspective, from a team perspective, and a player perspective, that's something that we need more help on in North America and in Europe. And that's partly a challenge to the teams, to the EGs and the complexities in North America. And it's also a challenge to us as a league to provide that baseline, right? Because you have that in South Korea with both GSL, KESPA, and ISF, and a couple of the other organizations that are out there. In North America, you've got us, a couple other players in the space, and in Europe, you've got IEM and DreamHack. And it's really up to us to provide the baseline level of activity that engages the teams, that gives them the opportunity to be active 24/7 by 365 here in this league.
We have time for a couple more questions. Just WCS is kicking off in the back, so if you hear background noise, that's what it is. Eric, and then we'll go to Steve.
First of all, I wanted to commend you on your development of your streaming services over the past year. It's miles ahead of what it was in Dallas last year. Love it. And my primary concern is you were talking about earlier your relationship with other leagues, getting pretty much people involved. But what is your plan for reaching more of a general public plan? Because when I was in college just last year, I was in a gaming club. They played all the games that were in MLG last year. And when I told them I was going, none of them had ever heard of it before, and I was slightly terrified. So what's your plan to reach more people like that, like maybe, I don't know, commercial time or something like that? Do you have an idea?
Well, I think, we've seen explosive audience there, but we're still small. Esports is, and anybody who doesn't think that esports is small is mistaken, because we are, from a global audience potential point of view, right? So but small is millions and millions of people. That's the crazy thing, right? So when you think about, a scenario when you're playing games, for Halo's a great example. Because Halo, we had playlists in the game. We had years that we had a Halo player on $185 million of Dr. Pepper, right? So we went from 200 people in the room for an event to 2,000. You see these things, but again, you're just scratching the tip of the iceberg. So the primary thing for us is going to be continue doing what we're doing here. But for the first time in our history, the marketing, right? The grand total of marketing and advertising dollars that MLG has spent is maybe 50 grand over the 10 years we've been in business. Why? Because we've had to. This is our marketing expense. This event that we're at, word of mouth, getting people to use social media, go out there and tell their friends, and that's fantastic. But again, we've kind of reached that first hurdle where you have to now go beyond that, right? So we're going to always use the community as our primary marketing device. We're going to get content out there. We're going to get great experiences. We're going to try and give latch points for people who are already, playing these games to find us. But the next step is to go broader, right? Is to really have a marketing plan. So I think next year you'll see us, and you might not even really see it, but it's in things like the partnerships that we're doing with folks like Microsoft, Blizzard, Activision, to get more promotional pieces, not only in games and around the games, but in traditional media outlets. Because that's the next step. That's how, when you get to the college campus, rather than being pockets of activity where people are like, oh yeah, I'm an MLG fan, where it's a campus-wide thing. So, and then, hopefully there's the 12 to 18 month plan, we'll see that shift. But I will say this, in most fourth grade classes in the country, there's a lot of kids who know about us, just anecdotally. Because whenever I meet a teacher, I ask them, yeah, absolutely. It'll take a while, but we gotta get over it.
Hi, I'm Kevin Johnson. I'm your community manager for StarCraft 2. And I just have a question for you guys. What do you feel like Blizzard could be doing to better support the growth of esports? I just want to hear your thoughts on
Blizzard?
Yeah.
Well, actually, I think they're doing a lot, right? I think the challenging thing now is that as esports or competitive gaming has become a focal point for publishers, right? There's a bit of the comparisons happen, right? So what's Riot doing compared to what Blizzard's doing, compared to what Valve's doing, right? So compared to what people are doing around new titles, right? But if you look at things like the WCS and the focus that they have behind the scenes, there's a lot of stuff that Blizzard does that doesn't make it out to the community. Like the level of involvement they have with us in terms of analyzing results and gameplay, replays, and just trying to get as much data, hard data about how the game is played at a very high level is tremendous. They're really committed to it. But that you can't really put that up in public and say, hey, because it's also not that sexy. You're looking at quant data around, build orders and what time the game's actually, decided compared to how long the game was. But they're working to add more and more support and more pieces and components to even to StarCraft, right? And you're going to see that over time. The problem is that we all want it now, right? I want it now. I want some of these tools, some of the things that they've hinted at delivering. This is going to help me with that issue that we had earlier, which is how I'm marketing, how I'm distributing my content. But I wouldn't say that there's any one thing. I think it's just their commitment as an organization to having an esports division internally. It's there. It's just that, as with any company, they've got a list of challenges that they've got to overcome. And unfortunately, we all want them to be, if you're a fan of StarCraft, you want it to be the best thing out there. And there's always other people who are nipping at their heels and doing things that maybe, because their game is being built from the ground up to support that. But I think Blizzard is proven to be extremely dedicated to the space and to helping promote it, support it, and build it out.
As game developers continue to expand in esports,
Hold your mic up.
second, as game developers continue to invest in esports and competitive play, has MLG considered, or is MLG currently supporting developers in terms of building ladder systems or other tools that they can use to support?
Yeah, so we have ongoing relationships with a lot of developers and publishers in various places, and the building out the mechanism around matchmaking, and social play, and ladders, and tournament functionality is something that we supported both through one of our core businesses that we own, Agora Games, which is a social software. Basically, they offer a social layer of game, like matchmaking. But also just plugging in and being able to pull data feeds from different games APIs and whatnot. This is an ongoing thing that we've been working on for a number of years. We've done more and more. I think the big challenge is always that platform by platform, there are different challenges for the developers as well as for us. And there's a point where it's diminishing returns, right? There's a handful of games where it really matters, and then there's a whole bunch of other games where you got to wait and see. So what the functionality, the core functionality, and the focus on multiplayer and the focus on competition is definitely unavoidable. I mean, you look at AAA titles like Black Ops, right, where we're going to bring esports to the masses, which is great, I think that they can, but that game's going to sell 30 million copies. So to have that be built into the DNA is a great thing, because it shows that it's prevalent. Or something like PlanetSide, where Sony Online Entertainment is trying to build that from the ground up, or Shoot Mania, or it just goes on and on and on. I mean, if you look at some of the features that you go to 2, it's fantastic what they built into it. So my hope is that you just continue to see more and more, and sort of standardization is right. It used to be that, there's the fact that we're going to have a multiplayer game, there's a certain level of matchmaking or match finding that's got to be built in, and once you've done that, you're done. And now we're seeing more and more robust tools. So that's what I'm really excited to help with, guide people, show them what works for us. And we have a website where people play 500 to 700,000 matches a month, finding each other through the Game Battles community. And we've learned a lot from that. And now we're able to share that with a lot of different developers and publishers. So it's a good thing.
Time for a few more.
What's up with the StarCraft 2 map pool, specifically Tal'Darim and Shakar's Plateau? And part 2, how did you want to help you?
So we've obviously taken a little bit here over map pool. One of the things that was really important to us in the original selection for the current map pool was to align with what the lab maps are. So our mentality around this is slightly different than I think some of the other organizers. We have a gigantic 200+ person open bracket that has folks playing from all over the place. They may not all play MLG specific maps or high-level tournament maps, right? They're going to play what's on the ladder. So the first thing that we did was align there. And then as we moved along, so that's kind of referred to earlier, we spent a lot of time talking about the Blizzard guys on Team 1, specifically around balance, and what the map stats look like. Who's winning, what race types, what race versus what race. Build orders, timings, I think it's Tal'Darim Altar 51% of the time, PBX wins, right? But in the first 5 minutes, or first 12 minutes, it's like 66% of the time PBX wins, right? I don't remember what the exact numbers are, but it's weighted. So there's a lot of balance data that goes into that, and we evaluate that over time. The current map pool, based on the data that we have, both from Blizzard and internally, and what we see on other tournaments, it's the most balanced pool of maps out there. Right, and that's critically important when you're not just talking about the highest level competition, but when you've got a giant open bracket as well, and you're servicing, players that just want to show up and have a chance at, playing MVP.
It's just to boil it down, it's a priority for us to be as close to out of the box as possible with balancing it for competition. So, I mean, that's definitely, we've followed that model since Halo. I know that it's not apples to apples, but we want somebody that can pick up the game and be able to come to our event the next day.
Time for one more.
Thank you. Guys, what games do you play for fun?
Games to play for fun. I still play Halo, the original Halo, my old Xbox console. I'm still terrible at StarCraft and looking for lessons. And I don't have a ton of time, to be honest with you. I mean, I try to just pick stuff up and play casually. You know, my son luckily downloads a ton of stuff from Steam for me, so I can try things out when he's playing it. But yeah, I unfortunately don't get to play as much as I used to.
Halo 1 and WoW.
He plays a lot of WoW. Counter-Strike Go lately, but not a whole lot of time. Spent a lot of time with beta games, just checking out what the next titles are going to be.
Yeah, actually, that's the most of the time now is checking out builds that are sent to us for evaluation. And the one that I like most recently is Hawking, actually. It's the one I played that I like a lot.
Yeah, Hawking's pretty solid. He's calling me out on this. I actually have a terrible division to be out with through.
Before we close out, I'd like to say, going into North American focus, another thing that, for Q4 that we're going to be kind of testing waters on is supporting teams. Look for the MLG to unveil our first ever team format, not only for Dallas, but possibly for another event before that, live event and online tie-in. So definitely want to support the teams that are out there supporting the players and supporting us. So we'll definitely have something to announce it soon.
And if anybody has any interest around the console piece of what we do here, we're going to have a pretty big announcement following Raleigh coming up for Dallas. Actually, I think we're very excited. It could be on Wednesday because that's still a focus for us. And to speak back to your question about marketing to the broader audience, console is still viewed by a lot of folks as the way in to a lot of folks' homes. So that's something to take back to our roots.
Thanks for coming, and we're going to kick things off here on the main stage at 5 o'clock, so come back for that.